Evening, everybody. 2 months, and that's a really long time in politics. I've been talking about SNC for 2 months. This story broke 2 months ago, and yeah, the article's been removed, but this one's still up from February 7th, and this one too. So it's almost like somebody doesn't want the original article out there. I wonder who that could be. I don't know who it could be. But anyway, lots has happened since February 7th. I just wanted to point out that it's the 2-month anniversary of SNC Lavalin breaking. And how many days in 2 months? 60 odd days, 61 days of Trudeau shooting himself in the foot repeatedly with every single misstep. Right? It's just incredible to watch how tone deaf his response has been, and it's consistently tone deaf. And so here's a couple of initial reports on the SNC and the full scandal, and those reports don't encapsulate the scandal at all, but it's just, I'm showing you where we were and now where we are. And where we are is Jody Wilson-Raybould is an independent. She was ejected from caucus by Justin Trudeau and vote of the caucus along with Dr. Philpott, and she does this interview today with the West Block, which is a global politics show on, like, it's a Sunday show, which is traditionally when politicians come on and chat. I don't know why, but that's what happens in the States too. Crossfire and all sorts of shows or Sunday morning shows. So there's interesting stuff in this interview. It's the whole show. The interview starts at about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, or 2 minutes and 50 seconds. I think the description has my time index notes and the links to the description. So if you want to kind of jump around and look at all the stuff that I look at, you can read my notes. They're in the description. But I wanted to highlight a couple of things. This is the question: do you have an end game, or like, were you intending to take down Justin Trudeau with this allegation? And Jody Wilson-Raybould's response. We're also going to listen to, did the PM know how much pressure you were facing? And she says, yeah, for sure. And then I'm going to skip ahead to another thing, but we'll talk about that then. Here, it's just the most interesting parts. The whole interview is interesting, but this is the most interesting parts, according to me. Here we go.
There are people who think your goal was to take down the Prime Minister, to take down Justin Trudeau. Was that your end game?
I didn't have an end game. I don't have an end game. I was, as the Minister of Justice, and in this case the Attorney General, I was just doing my job and working hard to do a good job at it. I consistently wanted to ensure that I spoke about what happened, that I raised the concerns that I had about actions that individuals were taking around this issue, around deferred prosecution agreement and around SNC, and wanted to ensure that I maintained the clear line between the prosecutor, myself as the Attorney General, and maintain that independence. And that was what I was doing throughout this period of time, and what I would do again.
Do you think the Prime Minister knew how much pressure you were facing?
I would be very surprised if the Prime Minister didn't know about those conversations.
I think people wonder.
So I want to point out, like, the whole interview has a couple of weird cuts. Weird camera cuts, weird audio cuts, like there's high volume, high background volume, and then all of a sudden there isn't high background volume. It sounds weird. I note a couple of them. 11:44 is another weird cut. I didn't note this one, 6:30, but there was a weird cut just there with the question and then the answer. So it is giving me pause, but take it for what it's worth. These are her words, but they may be cut. So we're going to jump ahead, and I'll cue up the next clip. Before I do, I want to point out the fact that she says he knew how much pressure she was under, like, is interesting as well. She's saying, yeah, he was the one directing it. By saying that he knew, it means he condones it. It means he was the one who told them to do it, right? We need this done, get it done. So that's not a bombshell. She said that before, but it's interesting to know. Okay, this is the question of, why did you record Mr. Wernick, the clerk of the Privy Council, without his knowledge?
I have to ask you about the tape. Why did you make the tape of Michael Wernick? Why didn't you tell him he was being taped?
I had a high level of anxiety in the middle of December when my chief of staff talked about a conversation, this is in my evidence too, that she had with Jerry Butts and Katie Telford. And when the clerk called and wanted to have that conversation with me, I knew that there was a potential that there would be something inappropriate that happened during that conversation. I felt that I needed to protect myself to ensure that I had an accurate record of what was said on that call. So I took the step of recording it. It was never supposed to be public. It was an aid memoir for me to ensure I had accurate notes. In any other circumstance, as I said, it would be inappropriate. But in that circumstance, in order to protect myself and to ensure that nothing inappropriate happened, I recorded the tape.
Do you think that the integrity of the justice system is at risk? Because that's something
So she doesn't say no in her answer, and she says that she's the one who's going to uphold the integrity, or not she's the one, but she hopes that the Attorney General upholds the integrity of the justice system. But it's so interesting when she says that it was never meant to be made public. It was meant for her to have accurate notes to be made from. And that's, you do that. I do that to make sure I have accurate notes. If I'm speaking on something, or if I'm talking off the top of my head, I have a recorder that I use and I make sure I have it running, because man, sometimes you get a turn of phrase that sounds really good or whatever. And so interesting that that's the reason she initially recorded it. It wasn't necessarily a trap to entrap Mr. Wernick, but the fact that it was running made her feel more secure. And yeah, again, all of this is so, hearing the backstory from this and covering it and speculating, hearing like this was my thought process is interesting to me. So thanks for listening, and thanks for coming with me on this journey, because it's interesting to hear all this from the other side and from the horse's mouth, literally, right? Like we heard the phone call, and then now we're hearing from herself, Miss Wilson-Raybould. So yeah, but I'm going to jump ahead. I'm actually not going to jump ahead. I'm going to leave it here. But this is a very long, very meandering interview. They also go for a walk outside at the end, just talking about what's next for Miss Wilson-Raybould. And she reveals that Miss May of Green Party fame has reached out, and a bunch of conservatives have been encouraging her to cross the floor. And she says she doesn't view herself as much of a floor crosser. And, she's asked if she thinks she's helping Andrew Scheer win the prime ministership or the next election. And she says, well, I don't think so. I'm really proud of the work that we did up in the first 3 years. So after watching this interview, I think less and less that that there's more to this story. I think at this point now, this might just peter out and be another quiver in the arrow for election, like for the election campaign that's going to start in the summer, which is very, very soon when you're talking politics. There's not many legislative days left, and all of the air is going to get sucked up with the next story, Andrew Scheer, and being threatened to be sued by Justin Trudeau, which is hilarious. But so it looks like this is going to fade away, and we're going to go to October. I don't think there's going to be another big bombshell. I thought there was more. I thought there was more. I thought there was more. It's very interesting. So that's that with that. Here's Andrew Scheer, and he's tweeting, and this was happening at 2:00, and I was busy this afternoon, and my friend texted me and he said, oh, this is what it is. And I said, oh, is that, he said, Justin Trudeau is suing Andrew Scheer. I said, is that why he can't release whatever documents he's got on SNC today? Right? And I felt like I missed the point. So I didn't, but I was on my phone and I was doing other things. But that's what it was. The fact that Justin Trudeau is suing Andrew Scheer is the thing. And yeah, it's like, have you ever played an idiot in chess? I've been the idiot and been the genius, right? Or have you ever played a genius in chess as an idiot, right? And I've been both. And when you are being maneuvered into checkmate, you don't really know it. You think you're going to win, right? And then all of a sudden the hammer drops and it's like, oh no, I've got no moves left. And I think that's where Justin Trudeau just got moved into. I think he can't actually do this. He can't do this because, well, for all the reasons that are going to be laid out in the next couple of minutes. But here's Andrew Scheer tweeting, quote, Justin Trudeau is threatening to sue me for talking about his corruption scandal. Here's the thing. I welcome the opportunity to question Trudeau directly. I look forward to him testifying under oath in open court. I won't back down. And here's the press conference here. We're going to listen to the first 3 minutes because that's the full English version. I'm going to make sure the speed is correct because it's not. And the first 3 minutes is English, and then there's 3.5 minutes of French, and then there's questions. I'm going to show the full English version, and then I'm going to show you some questions that I think are interesting. Here we go.
From coming out. He has refused to call a public inquiry. He has shut down. Justin Trudeau has done everything in his power to keep the truth of the SNC-Lavalin corruption scandal from coming out. He has refused to call a public inquiry. He has shut down 2 parliamentary committee investigations into the scandal. He has changed his version of events, shifted blame onto others, and has been caught peddling phony excuses. And he has smeared, punished, and engaged in character assassination of those who tried to stand up to him and to speak the truth. But his attempts to suppress the facts and silence his critics don't end there. 1 week ago, I received a letter from a lawyer representing Justin Trudeau, threatening to sue me for my criticisms of his actions in the SNC-Lavalin corruption scandal. You all have copies of that letter. Upon receiving Mr. Trudeau's letter, I immediately consulted with my legal team, and after careful consideration, I was advised that Mr. Trudeau's complaints were without merit. I stand by every single criticism I have made of Mr. Trudeau's conduct in regards to the scandal, including those Mr. Trudeau's lawyer cites in his letter. They are all based on the facts that have emerged from parliamentary testimony and irrefutable evidence presented by Jody Wilson-Raybould. Today, my lawyer has responded to Mr. Trudeau's threats, and you all have copies of that letter as well. If Mr. Trudeau intends to pursue this course of legal action, if he believes he has a case against me, I urge him to do so immediately. This is an urgent matter of public interest, and it deserves to be heard in a legal setting where Liberals do not control the proceedings. I welcome the opportunity to examine Mr. Trudeau in pretrial discovery at the earliest possible date. I look forward to Mr. Trudeau presenting his evidence to Canadians under oath in open court. And based on what I hear, I'm certain Canadians will welcome this as well. However, based on his monumental efforts over the last 2 months to keep all the facts of this matter from coming out, it is clear what this is. This is a blatant attempt to use, and some would say misuse, threats of legal action to stop me from fulfilling my constitutional duty as leader of the opposition to hold the government of the day to account on behalf of all Canadians. It is a further attempt to silence those who stand up to Justin Trudeau and who seek the truth. It hasn't worked so far, and it will not work now. Trudeau should know what he's getting into. He will face questioning under oath for hours so that we can get to the bottom of this. He will also have to produce documents that demonstrate his true motives in helping his corporate friends avoid consequences. I am confident in my case, and I will continue demanding the answers that Canadians deserve.
And then he does the whole thing again in French. So at the end, he outlines why this is a bad idea for Trudeau. If Trudeau brings legal action, during the discovery phase, he has to submit evidence and will be put under oath to answer the questions that the legal teams need to have answered to get to the bottom of this, because there's a whole lot of he said, she said, and corroborating evidence out there from Ms. Philpott and Mr. Butts and Mr. Wernick's crazy, crazy crackpot testimony. Remember that? Crazy old Michael Wernick, right? Conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat, nut job, Michael Wernick, right? So, very interesting to threaten the leader of the opposition, whose job it is to oppose and be the opposition. Like, that's his whole job, right? And criticizing the prime minister is definitely part of that job. And Justin Trudeau can't handle that even? I'm going to sue you. That's kind of not how this works, Justin, right? Like, I mean, really, my goodness. Who's advising him? Who said this was a good idea? Who let the legal team send that letter to Scheer's legal team? Because if you threaten legal action for somebody, on somebody, and then they call your bluff, well, you got to show your cards. So, ball's in your court. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting to watch. I wonder what Trudeau will do. Kick a puppy or something like that. Okay, so I'm gonna get the questions lined up. Hold on a second. We're going to listen to this question twice from two different people. It's the first and then the last one, I think. This is, do you believe the Prime Minister broke the law?
Do you believe that the Prime Minister broke the law in the SNC-Lavalin affair?
I believe that Justin Trudeau led a campaign to politically interfere in an ongoing court process, in ongoing court proceedings, and we have, of course, asked the RCMP to investigate to determine if a crime was committed.
Here he's asked, why did you release the letter today?
Wondering why you felt compelled to release the letter that was sent to you today, and I also have a follow-up.
Well, because I believe this is an attempt to stifle criticism of Justin Trudeau. This is a bullying attempt to try to prevent me from doing my constitutional duty as leader of the opposition. And the reason why I feel strongly about making this public is, first of all, so that Canadians can see the type of tactics that Mr. Trudeau will engage in, but also to challenge him to follow through with it. So far, the Liberals have used their control of parliamentary committees to shut down investigations into this scandal. This now presents us with an opportunity, presents Canadians with an opportunity to have a legal proceeding that Liberals can't shut down, that they can't control, that they don't chair, that they can't outvote members of the opposition to shut down investigations. And it will be done under oath, where the officials, the people that were named by Jody Wilson-Raybould, including the Prime Minister himself, will have to testify under oath. That is something that we have been pushing for through other channels, and so now this provides us with an opportunity to get exactly that.
Yeah, I mean, checkmate. Uh-oh, what are you going to do now? Uh-oh, game over, right? So I've got a couple other things to show you. Okay, this question is translated, but the first time that do you think he broke the law was asked, it was kind of a flop of a response. I didn't think it was a very strong answer. I thought this one was better, so here it is.
I would like to ask, like a colleague did ask, do you believe that Mr. Trudeau broke the law? It's clear to me that this is the case. I maintain what I said. Everything that I said is based on the evidence that is before Canadians. It is based on the testimony that we saw and heard. Mr. Trudeau led a campaign to attempt to interfere in a criminal case. It's Mr. Trudeau who said that things weren't true, that he changed his story. He gave one reason after another, a different one every week, and he forgot what he said. He said that Ms. Wilson-Raybould never raised these concerns with himself. We now know that she did, and that Mr. Trudeau has admitted that she did do this. He admitted it last week in the House of Commons. I wrote a letter to the RCMP to ask for an investigation to determine the foundation for beginning a criminal investigation. Won't it be up to...
Okay, and I'm just going to leave it there because the nuance of this is good. I just wanted to get a more robust answer on, do you think he broke the law? And he explains it better there in French. He was saying, he directly contradicted himself in the House of Commons. He said first, nobody came to him in the fall, and then in the House of Commons, totally contradicted himself by confirming that Jody Wilson-Raybould told him in the fall, no, and this isn't appropriate, and blah, 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 blah. So, what are you going to do when you're Justin Trudeau and you have to, drop your king because checkmate. But even so, Teflon Justin Trudeau, despite the hate, has owned the press and has enough useful idiots, and if you don't know what the term is, useful idiot is, go look it up, has enough useful idiots that people who are offended by this are shouted down or just tired of being in endless, ridiculous conversations with people who don't actually understand how things work and who are convinced that the newspaper is 100% correct. Case in point, the education cuts in Ontario as dominating the news cycles. Talk about manipulating people en masse. I used to work in education. I understand the waste. And my goodness. And the idea of losing teachers through attrition and laying them off, et cetera, we have to do something. You can't, there's no extra, where's the money coming from? So it's so interesting to watch all of this stuff come together. And this is an election year. Like if this was 2 years into a 4-year mandate, then you might expect to see some of this kind of stuff. But in election year, usually it needs to be buttoned right up, except that Trudeau's, smearing protesters and thanking them for their donation and kicking out high-ranking female cabinet ministers because they won't lie for the Liberal Party. It's insanity. It's insanity. So I don't know that there's more to come, but I'm going to be covering it anyway. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out the People's Party of Canada.ca. We've got an election in October. I can't wait. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.